Good afternoon, Sean here, Mountains Garage. I'm modifying my stainless headers for the 71 Nova behind me. Cutting off the 3-bolt flange, putting on a V-band. I got two methods of attack here. Let me show you. For the header itself, there's no way to put it in the lathe or anything, so I just ground the flange so it's flush. And it actually the V-band pushes on there. It's a nice fit. So pretty low tech. For the collector, I went high tech. I actually measured how much I had to cut off and machined it in the lathe so it fits on that little step right there. But what I found fascinating was the beautiful chips coming off it. Some are red. I know it has to do with speed and heat, but I wish my welds looked like that beautiful rainbow color. On the second header, I was more efficient at what I was doing, and it took me about 2 minutes to grind off the little flange, and it still took me about 8 minutes to machine the other side collector. So now I'll attempt to weld it. I'm not the greatest TIG welder, but I try and I practice a lot. In this situation, of course, there won't be any purging. Back purging. Really not necessary for what I'm doing. This is all downstream. The flange is considerably thicker than the pipe, so I'll probably be using filler. And my mistake typically TIG welding is I go too slow. I try to run a lower voltage so as not overheat the metal, and I end up going too slow and end up with a gray weld anyway. Occasionally I knock out a pretty rainbow one, but it's usually on thicker material. So I know my mistake. It's hard to, teach yourself not to make the same mistake over and over again. I've never had any formal training. I just keep practicing. I went ahead and removed the nylock nuts. I'll reuse them when I install them on the car, but I found some metric nuts so I don't end up boiling the nylon out of them when I completely overheat the whole mess. All right, let's give it a go. As usual, it's adequate, but nothing you want to put on the cover of a magazine. Someday I'll either actually practice or sometime between now and then maybe take a course. It's on my list of things. I'd really like to be an excellent TIG welder. I'm an awesome MIG welder, but that's not hard, really. TIG welding, I've never practiced more than 10 minutes. I typically building something and I learn as I go, and at the end I'm starting to get better, and then I'll forget everything I might have learned by the time I do it again. I probably wasn't super clear while I was rambling on, but this is what I call practice. I should probably take some scrap metal and weld it together. Instead, I practice on everything I do. Whew. That seems like a good way to wrap up this relatively short video. You don't have to be good at everything. In this case, I did 80 amps, which is probably twice what I need. I'm pretty sure going in that I knew I had too much amperage, and the welds weren't going to be rainbow, they were going to be gray-ish. And halfway through I thought, well, I should just back off on the pedal because I have a tendency just to floor it and run whatever the amperage I got set at. All things a good TIG welder would know. So funny story, yesterday I finished the front brake lines on the Nova. And if you saw the other video, you know how fussy I am. I'm trying not to get brake fluid everywhere and being super careful to not get, paint peeling everywhere from the brake fluid. So I just made the connection to the master cylinder, the last line, and I get a delivery. So I had to go outside for maybe 4 minutes. I came back inside and I had fluid dripping out with the caliper bolt and the hose joint on the caliper. It was 4 minutes tops, enough time to sign for something and drag it inside. Closer inspection, the hose leaves the caliper and there's a groove in the caliper that it sets in. Well, the hoses I bought have a protective rubber coating on them, which makes them a little bit thicker. And this particular caliper, that C wasn't quite as big as it needed to be, combined with the fact that the copper washers that came with the caliper don't even look like they belong on a caliper. Typically, the caliper ones have the little serrations in them and everything. This is just a flat copper washer like you'd buy in a little kit you bought at Harbor Freight. So with fluid running everywhere, I had to disconnect. I actually moved the line up top, tightened it back up to kind of hold the fluid back for a minute. Cleaned it up, ground that C out, disconnected the line again because I'm starting to river every time I do it, tighten it back up, clean everything off 40 times, and then I had to bleed it, clean it again. I'm so fussy when I do it. I take a little piece of paper towel, poke a hole in it, set it over the bleeder so when the fluid comes out, it just soaks into the paper towel. All tricks. It's such a pain to try to do things nice, and this isn't even that nice. Beaters are better. It's a website. It's just, if you didn't care, it'd be so much easier. I'm somewhere in between. I think it's way easier to blow the car completely apart, completely 100% restore it and put it back together than it is to do something halfway. This is just a paint job and some fancying up. It's not a restoration by the definition. Anyway, again, things don't always go right. It's how you handle what happens determines the result. I mean, I make mistakes every day and I'll make more tomorrow. That's how you learn. Back to TIG welding for a minute. It is nice. You could probably do it in your living room and not catch anything on fire because sparks don't fly everywhere. So it's the end of the day on Friday. It's Friday night, actually. So I'm going to wait a few more minutes and go back in the house. If I was MIG welding, I'd probably hang out for a half an hour and sweep the floor and move all the trash cans. I would have done that before I started because that's, just like 4th of July. It just sprays everywhere. But anyway, I hope you guys have a great weekend. Who knows what we're going to do next? I wasn't even planning on shooting a video today. I just liked the color of the chips coming off and wanted to share it with you. Thanks. Talk to you soon.